Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to Transition Power Hour series. Today, we have the pleasure of featuring Apprenticeship with Amanda Miller from the Department of Labor. Amanda will be walking us through apprenticeship opportunities and process, and we wanted to make sure that today's session that you have a copy of this. So Amanda will be sending me a copy of her PowerPoint slides, which I will share with you after. Please remember that all our sessions are recorded, and these sessions will be made available on the Transition webpage shortly. And I say shortly because there's people transitioning into these positions, and so sending it off, I don't know the timeline in getting this posted, but it will be there. Additionally, I want to mention the survey. At the end of the session, I will put the transition survey in the chat box. So please complete the survey, and then you will receive a certificate for your contact hours. So with that, I will give the floor to Amanda Miller. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Amanda Muller. I am the Apprenticeship Navigator with Bureau of Rehabilitation Services with the Department of Labor. And my role is to spread the word about registered apprenticeship programs in Maine, and to increase the number of individuals with disabilities participating in registered apprenticeship. So I'm going to tell you what registered apprenticeship is, and really we have programs that are just blossoming, they're just starting. So although there's been registered apprenticeship, it's existed for decades. In Maine, we're really just getting started. So let me share my presentation with you. I don't think I'll be more than 20 minutes. I'm probably like 15. Is that okay, Titus?
That is okay.
Just a moment. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I tried to make this sort of targeted for a transition. So there's a lot to say about apprenticeship, but I'm kind of just giving you the essential information, okay? So I personally have worked as a vocational rehabilitation counselor for 4 years in Florida. So I'm very familiar with VR in general. I'm new to Maine. I just moved here in August, and I'm new to my position. So I'm the first and only, so far, the first and only apprenticeship navigator for Bureau of Rehab Services in Maine. So I'm learning, I'm developing in this role. So I hope to sort of be the face of registered apprenticeship for vocational rehab, for representing individuals with disabilities and employers. Okay. So with that, the Maine Department of Labor received a $5.6 million grant to expand registered apprenticeships. And this grant is being used to staff a team of dedicated apprenticeship personnel like myself. My position is a grant-funded position. So we are all working very hard to develop these programs. I meet weekly with my team, and we discuss new developments in apprenticeship. We share information with each other. I share information with the vocational rehab counselors. They share that information with their clients, and we also do outreach to businesses. But right now, the apprenticeship team is slammed because we've got a lot of requests coming in from businesses to develop registered apprenticeship programs. And as you know, there's a labor shortage here in Maine, so businesses are desperate for workers. Currently, there are 129 registered apprenticeship programs in Maine. And we're continuing to develop these programs. We expect that the number of these programs are going to explode in Maine. The Department of Labor has an aspirational goal of 7% persons with disabilities of the total number of registered apprentices. And so you'll find that registered apprenticeship programs are not just in construction trades, but there's also demand for workers in healthcare, hospitality, clean energy, broadband, and education. So in addition, as part of the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Maine Apprenticeship Program received a $12 million grant from the Department of Labor as part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And that's to expand registered apprenticeship programs. So the Maine Apprenticeship Program awarded this grant to 14 recipients who are supporting the Department of Labor in increasing registered apprenticeships in Maine. These grant recipients are developing many apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeship opportunities. And one of their goals is to increase the number of apprentices and pre-apprentices by 3,000 over the next 3 years. And part of this grant requires that they implement outreach to recruit individuals with disabilities. So what is registered apprenticeship? Registered apprenticeship is an educational pathway to good jobs. There are certain components that must exist in a registered apprenticeship program. A lot of details are left up to the employer and kind of are created in partnership with the employer and the Maine Apprenticeship Program, but these are the minimum requirements. So the program must have business involvement. Apprentices are paid employees. They are working for a company. They can be new employees or they can be existing employees. Apprenticeships must include structured and mentored on-the-job learning. So they receive mentoring from an experienced journey worker, and they must work for a minimum of 2,000 hours, which is around 1 year. And that can last up to 12,000 hours or 6 years. So it depends on the program, on the occupation, how long that apprenticeship program is. Registered apprenticeship programs must include at least 144 hours per year of related technical instruction or formal classroom learning. So this method of instruction varies by program, but it could be courses taken at a community college, a university, could be at the union hall, at the work site. It could be from home, remote coursework. It could be like self-directed modules completed on the computer. Sometimes the related technical instruction is provided by the employer. And so, like I had mentioned, the platform could be on campus, in person, virtual, or hybrid. And in some instances, this instruction will be paid for by the employer. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the employers will pay the apprentices while they're receiving related technical instruction, and other times they do not. But this 144 hours are clock hours. So that's really just like 3, if you're going to compare it to college courses, it's really just 3 classes for the whole year. So most apprentices are full-time employees and part-time students. And the content of those courses are going to depend on what that occupation is. So it could be like safety, learning about tools, or it could be learning some kind of advanced math and science. So some apprentices may work fewer hours while they're taking classes. If they're in the construction trades, they'll probably have a lot of courses dedicated to occupational safety. So another requirement is that they must receive increased wages for skills gains throughout the length of the program. So their wages are going to increase gradually to that of a journey worker upon completion of the program. So the great thing about registered apprenticeships is that the apprentice knows when they're going to receive a wage increase, and they know what their starting wage is going to be before they even go on the interview. Lastly, registered apprenticeship programs result in an industry credential that's going to be related to that occupation. So these credentials are going to vary by whatever the program is. They could be industry certificates, occupational licenses. It could be a degree. For example, it could be like OSHA certification, a helper certificate, first aid, basic life support, CPR, electrician, CDL, associates or bachelor's degrees. It could be Serve Safe. Really, the list goes on. They will also receive a nationally recognized registered apprenticeship certificate of completion. So it's important to note that the employer drives the process of creating that registered apprenticeship program. Okay, are there any questions so far? We'll have a little time at the end. I'll ask you again. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time, but I want to make sure that I give you the opportunity to ask questions. So I want to talk about pre-apprenticeships, and this is, I think, where you'll see how this can apply to transition youth. So a pre-apprenticeship is a pathway to registered apprenticeship programs. Okay, so the pre-apprenticeships, they must be connected to one registered apprenticeship program. So how it works is, we've got these formal partnerships between CTE programs, community colleges, labor associations, employers, vocational rehab, all these different organizations. And they develop a program that's often appropriate for young people in their junior or senior year of high school. They could be in college, and they're or a CTE program. They're interested in a registered apprenticeship program. There isn't a requirement that they have to be in school, or that they might even be an out of school youth. There's no age cap on that, but they have to be at least 16. So these programs include, they're not all going to be cookie cutter identical. Every program is going to look different, but they're likely to include activities like job shadowing, work-based learning experiences, informational interviews, job site tours, job readiness training, soft skills training, that relevant classroom instruction. So all of these different activities to help prepare that person for entering the registered apprenticeship program, helping them kind of figure out is that what they want to do. And so these are really appropriate for individuals who are very motivated. They're committed to learning. They have a strong interest in a registered apprenticeship program in a particular industry, or maybe a general area of interest. And you can think of pre-apprenticeships as like an AP program for apprenticeship-bound students. So they're doing these activities during school time, and they're able to receive credit for the hours that they've worked, for their experience, for the courses that they've taken that can apply toward the requirements of a registered apprenticeship program. So they might, just as an example, they could take some classes, do some work, and then when they get out of school and or high school and they enter the registered apprenticeship program, they might even start off at a higher wage than someone who didn't do the pre-apprenticeship program. And we'll see that these individuals are going to have there's going to be some, what's the word I'm looking for? Preference for hiring and interviews for these individuals, because they already have been introduced to the employer. They've already, done some work and have some experience. So, during that time, they'll be connected with the employer. And so something to know is that pre-apprenticeship is really new. The rules are still being written and finalized, and We're not expecting that process to be completed and approved until like mid-February. So there's a whole process for that. And we expect to see this program really expand next year. So as we're waiting on the formal regulations, we're having conversations with the grantees, those grant recipients I told you about what their pre-apprenticeship programs are going to look like. And I'm going to continue to conduct outreach and I'll come back with Titus on updates on this information to make sure that this information is available to everybody once we know more about it. We're hoping that there's going to be like 2,000 pre-apprenticeship programs developed in the next 3 years, just based on the work that those grant recipients are doing, not to mention people that are programs that are working with us that are not receiving grants from us. So in general, the requirements for a registered apprenticeship program are that the individual is 16 years old at least, and they have to either have their high school diploma or GED, or they're working toward getting one. However, many pre-apprenticeship programs require them to be at least 18, depending on the occupation, and they may require them to already have their high school diploma. So if you've got someone who graduated early, maybe they're 17, they could do a registered apprenticeship program unless that program requires that they're 18. And if that's the case, then maybe they can start with the pre-apprenticeship since they only have to be 16 and then sort of graduate to the registered apprenticeship potentially. So for the pre-apprenticeships, they just have to be 16 and at least working on the high school diploma. Some of the programs require that they're at least a junior in high school. But for all the programs, they must be physically able to perform the essential functions of the job with or without accommodations and without imposing a threat to the health or safety of themselves or others. Some of the programs will have additional requirements. We've got all sorts of different occupations that have different levels of challenge of physical and mental cognitive demand, so some of them may require drug testing, physical fitness tests, or occupational aptitude testing, especially if that program requires them to get a degree. So that it could include basic academic skills, reasoning, critical thinking skills, problem solving, decision making, analytical or technical skills. So these requirements are determined by the employer. I don't think that I've seen most aren't going to require those, but that's something to inquire about if someone's interested in entering a registered apprenticeship program. What are those requirements? So we'll see this type of pre-screening for occupations that have a higher responsibility and higher risk, and that require higher, more advanced academic ability. So I did want to talk with you about we just have so far one pre-apprenticeship program, although they haven't finalized the rules. This one's sort of a pilot that these high school students are doing, and they'll get credit for it once the rules are finalized with pre-apprenticeship. But AFL-CIO is one of our grant recipients, and they've been working with students from RSU 19. They just launched a pre-apprenticeship program with students in partnering with the Augusta Electrical Union. And so they completed a program over the fall, and they're also going to be starting a 5-week summer multi-craft construction pre-apprenticeship at the training center, the IBEW training center in Newport next year in the summer and fall. And that's going to be in electrical. They're in talks of doing a welding program too, but so far that hasn't been finalized. But they're planning a lot with the pre-apprenticeship program in that area. That's just one example. So we're thrilled to be able to work with these 14 sponsors. These are the grant recipients, and they're tasked with using that grant money that they were awarded to greatly expand apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships. So you can see that these include secondary and post-secondary schools and unions, non-union industry organizations, nonprofits, private businesses. They had to really go through a lot to be awarded this this grant. So they have really big plans. So under each, these are sponsors. So under each sponsor, they might have several or multiple employers that they're working with that apprentices are working for. So let's see, like Bath Iron Works is an employer. So they've got probably like 70 apprentices working under them. But like Associated General Contractors of Maine, they've got multiple employers working under them. Like construction labor, some of them are geared toward healthcare professions. Like we'll see a lot of CNAs. There's a desperate, dire need for CNAs, nurses, and a couple of other ones like technicians for certain screenings, things like that. I think the most popular apprenticeship in Maine is going to be electric. There's a list of all of the current active registered apprenticeship programs, and I wouldn't recommend downloading the form and saving it because it gets updated every week, where maybe somebody drops out or they've added new employers or occupations to the list. So, and it's also important to note that while all of the registered employers are on this list, it doesn't mean that they're actively hiring. So we've got some small, tiny businesses that may have 1 or 2 apprentices, and then we've got huge businesses like Bath Iron Works that have like 70 apprentices. So we kind of, it's not clear off the bat, you know, who's hiring, but you could go to the company website and see if they have jobs listed. Doesn't mean that they will. You could also go to the Maine job link website to see if they have a job post. So I wanted to just kind of show you what's called a schedule of work. This is a requirement for a registered apprenticeship program. It's it looks like a syllabus. So it tells you exactly what skills and tasks the apprentices are expected to learn and perform on the job. And this is really great to give you an idea of, is this opportunity or apprenticeship program appropriate for the individual that I have in mind. So it tells you, you know, this is just an example. I don't know if you could see, it's a little small. Wastewater systems operations specialist. That's just the one I picked as an example. It is, it says, you know, the first few hours are required to learn tools, equipment, workplace safety, that sort of thing. And then later on in the schedule of work, it tells you what trainings required, the classroom trainings required, what courses you need to take, who's going to provide those, that training. So while it seems like a registered apprenticeship is really nebulous and confusing, the schedule of work really clarifies it and helps with the decision-making process. Another thing that's required of registered apprenticeships is that wage schedule. I mentioned before that it's a requirement that the apprentices have to have steps in their wage progression, and it's all predetermined and agreed upon by the employer. And there's certain requirements. Of course, they have to make at least minimum wage, but they're encouraged to pay more than that. And the employer might get some incentives. They might get some reimbursement a little bit. not that much, but some funding for paying them more. And so here's an example of a schedule of work for an apprentice welder with Bath Iron Works. And so for this particular program, the starting wage is $18.23 an hour, which is 75% of the journey workers' hourly wage. So this is what they're paid for the first 1,000 hours that they work. And that's like around 6 months. And so for the next 1,000 hours, they get bumped up to 78% of the journey workers' wages. And that keeps going up every 1,000 hours until they get to the end of the apprenticeship program, and they're making the journey workers' wages of $24.32 an hour. That doesn't mean they're never going to get another raise. It just means they're no longer an apprentice. They've graduated. They're a journey worker. And so, like I said, these wage schedules are a requirement, and you can see how the wage progression is going to attract apprentices, and it's going to support job retention, with the apprentices. And that's something that's attractive also to the employer. And that's it. Any questions? Was that helpful? Oh, okay. Megan, I saw your hand.
So you said some of the forms on the website are kind of in the process of changing. Are the schedule of work forms that are kind of like, I don't know, I kind of equate them to like a course description kind of, are those changing, or do you guys have those set? Are those okay, you think, to download and
I don't think those are available to, I can
Oh.
access them from we have a database that the Department of Labor, specific people in the Maine Apprenticeship Program can access, and I can download those and I can provide that information. So it's specific to the employer, but you'll see that, you'll see that, so if there's 2 different electrician apprenticeships with 2 totally different companies, they might look the same. There might be a couple differences, because we tend to use one existing one as a template and say, this is what exists. What do you think about it? With the employer, and the employer may say, well, this looks good, but I want to change a couple things. So it's not going to look identical, so, and I'm happy to, like, if you want to reach out to me and say, hey, I'm interested in this program for someone I know, I'll send you that schedule of work and I'll answer any questions you have about it.
Okay, are those something that are, like, we work with a VR rep a couple times a month at our school. Is that something she would have access to, or she'd probably be able to reach out?
Yes, so the VR counselor can reach out to me, and I have access to that, whoever that student is. If they're already a VR client, I have access to their client information. I can collaborate with the VR counselor and provide information on that to them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is a lot of great information. Appreciate it.
Good. Yeah. Robin?
Yeah, so I just had a couple of questions. I've been on the apprenticeship site before, and it is regional. It can be regionally organized, correct?
Yeah, so there's 2 different documents. One is by county and one is by occupation.
Right. And so if kiddos are still in high school, they'd either need to have their license, or would need to be required to be transported by the school if it was a school program. Is that right?
Yeah, so for a pre-apprenticeship, they're not, employed. They might be, but probably not. So they may be transported by the school depending on the program. So it's really, we don't know yet. I said that they're still figuring out the rules for pre-apprenticeship. This is all so new. But the one that just happened with AFL-CIO, I think that those students were transported from, some of it was taking place in the CTE, in the school. And so I think that's what we're going to see a lot, is the CTE schools are going to be working with the Maine Apprenticeship Program in partnership with employers. But we just don't know yet. But it's going to be during school hours. So for the most part, I think. So it's really going to depend. I just don't know yet.
Right. And I forgot my second question, so.
Okay, it'll come back to you.
I have a
Tom?
quick question, Amanda. Thank you very much. That was a great presentation. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited about this program. I wanted
Me
to just ask about, again, the pre-apprenticeship. And I guess what I'm a little bit unclear on is is this a summer program as well, or does just during the school year?
That is actually a really good question because it could be both, either or. So these programs are just, they haven't even started yet. So I'm expecting next year there's gonna be a lot of them. There's like one now that one program now that exists, and it's sort of like our little baby pilot program. And so there's a summer program, the 5-week summer program. So those kids are actually not in school, but then there's a fall program, and those students are in school. We really don't know yet. Some of the activities may take place outside of school hours, but I was told that they're going to be during school time. But there's no final word on that yet.
Okay. And one more quick question. And that is, kids being kids, they often need coaching and sometimes, an adult to be there with them. Has that been thought about yet, like job coaching on pre-employment or?
Yeah, so it's still being developed, still being worked on. The students they don't have to be a VR client to do a pre-apprenticeship or even an apprenticeship. If they are a VR client, the VR can provide supports while they're training and working, excuse me. And there is a requirement that they have to have some level of supervision while they're in this. They can't just leave kids in a workshop, I'm still waiting to hear the final word on what that's going to look like in terms of the supports they're going to receive. They've got to have supervision at the minimum, so that's still sort of being figured out. In terms of job coaching, VR youth clients, they're going to get supports while they're in their on-the-job training, while they're in any work-based learning experiences, and they're going to have be able to receive advice and counseling from their VR counselor. But when working as they got hired and they're an apprentice, I'm not anticipating a lot of job coaching support during that time. So maybe in the beginning while they're learning, but once they're in their registered apprenticeship, it's not that they can't provide that level of support. It's that somebody who needs a lot of coaching while on the job, that person, it would be limited, or it would be on a temporary basis, So if they've got a whole year or maybe a 4-year apprenticeship program, they're not going to get job coaching supports for that whole time. But they could potentially get advice and counseling supports from a VR counselor. That's what I'm anticipating.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I know it's a new program, so thank you.
Oh, no. They're really good questions, and I'm as eager as you are to learn all the details about it.
I remembered my second question.
Okay, good.
My second question is, so if the student is a VR client, then we have the VR releases. So if the student is not a VR client, are there specific releases that you have? Do we need a separate release for you, and probably even if they are a VR client, because we need like a separate release for manpower?
If they're not a VR client, I don't anticipate that they're going to be on my radar at all. So basically anybody who meets the minimum requirements can do a registered apprenticeship program. The reason we are pushing for VR to get involved is because we want to increase the number of apprentices with disabilities and to create opportunities for them that they previously, they didn't have access to, or the opportunity for that. So they can receive additional supports from VR. I think I kind of lost track of your question. Sorry.
Okay. If I'm understanding correctly, and if I'm wrong, let me know. It's really your job is to provide the opportunity and the pathway, and it's the school and VR's job to provide the support and like the accommodations and those kinds of things. You're not in the business of providing support so that they can be an apprentice. You're providing the opportunity with a guided path. However, the school and VR gets them through that path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds right. So what I can do, I can't go be a job coach, but I can direct individuals to resources. I can say, hey, that's something your VR counselor could help with, or I actually am aware of a scholarship that could pay for that program, because all of these programs require some classroom instruction. It's pretty likely there's a scholarship that's going to pay for it. If not, then VR will probably pay for it. So I'm kind of a person to talk to about that. Like if I'm not anticipating it's going to be an issue with transition youth, but if there's a childcare concern, there's the certain funding for that. Just as an example, transportation is more complicated, but potentially that's something that VR could support, or some other grant or funding source. So, and I do have a history, I have worked as a VR counselor, I'm not really serving that role now. So I can provide at least some, consultation, or, collaborate with the VR counselor and the client and the employer. That's not really my role, but I'm able to do that, at least to point them in the right direction, because the employer's gonna need support with reasonable accommodations. And once this student is not in school anymore, then that's not something the school's gonna be helping with.
And so following that sort of logic, then if they were in a pre-apprentice program while they were still in school, they would be covered under the school's insurance, because they wouldn't be a paid employee of the apprenticeship program. But that once they graduated, if they got an apprentice appointment through that business or company, they would become their employee and their insurance. Does that sound right?
Yes. Okay. And that's what I'm thinking it's going to be. The school's going to assume, that responsibility while they're in the pre-apprenticeship. But again, we're waiting on the final details.
That's similar to like an extended or learning opportunities, which is also very sort of up and coming right now too. So
right, yeah. So we're going to be pretty connected with the CTE programs. Really hoping to expand to, all the counties, all the schools. Here's my contact. You can email me if you have any questions. Don't feel like you're wasting your time if you just want to chat about apprenticeship, or if you are wondering what sorts of opportunities are out there, or you've got a couple of students in mind you're thinking about and you just want to kind of talk it out. I don't mind at all. I'm happy to schedule a Zoom meeting with you. So I'm hoping that Titus will invite me back soon, and I can give you some more details, more meat about pre-apprenticeships. So I think you'll hear back from me soon. Thank you. Any more questions?
And if you do have questions going forward, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Amanda, and we both can support you through the process. There are so many new good things happening in transition, whether it is the apprenticeships or the new workplace learning opportunities that are happening. And I'm going to be inviting them to this forum as well as ELO. And I know Amanda has partnered with the ELO team as well. So we are trying to make sure that we have a package for you, but at the same time, it's moving parts. So, and then each kid has a different need. Each region have different support systems as well, but we'll try and be as responsive as we can. I am putting, if there are no more questions, I am putting the Power Hour Series survey, which if you complete, you will receive your contact hours certificate with that.
Thank you, Titus. And I'm sorry, I took a long time.
Amanda.
It was a little longer than I had anticipated.
No, not at all. The whole hour was for you, Amanda. So that is good. We used it well. If there aren't any other questions, I will stay online until 4, just in case anyone thinks of another transition question. I'll make myself available now for not only apprenticeship, but any other question you might have regarding transition.
Thanks, Titus. And I would love to come back at some point in the near future and kind of go into more detail about specific programs. You can all look at the Maine Apprenticeship Program website on your own, but if you wanted to, look into details, I'll put it in the chat, that link for you all right now.
Also, I hope to bring Amanda, I'm thinking bringing you back in February, because there'll be a lot in development in January, and we might have some good updates by the 1st or 2nd week of February now.
Great.
Okay.
Yes, just send me an email, please. I'm happy to do it.
We will do. Thank you again, everyone, for today's attendance. And again, I'll stay on until 4 o'clock, just in case anyone has any questions for me.
Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much. Craig, a recording of today's session will be made available on the Special Services webpage for transition. It might not be this week or next, but it will be made available shortly, with my fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
I don't want to miss a lesson. I enjoyed the first 2. I enjoyed the training I had in the summer.
Yes.
You guys are doing a great job. And I see I did catch you saying some great things coming about transitions. I say that I'm taking what little I've learned, not little because of you folks. You're giving us great information, but what I have so far, I've already turned it around in my classroom, and we've done so much with the information already. So thank you. I appreciate it very much.
No, thank you, Craig. You stay well, and please reach out whenever you need. For as little or as big as you need.
Thank you.
Be well.
You too.
Hey, Tom, am I going to see you next week?
Oh, I thought it was tomorrow.
Oh, I'll see you tomorrow. There we go.
You scared me.
It's next week already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Tomorrow morning at 9. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Alrighty then. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, Lonnie.
Hello. I just wanted to see if we were set for the 20th.
Okay. I
confirming.
definitely added you, but let's do a double check.
Yeah, I checked my
because-
calendar too.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the day we have. I was trying to be so savvy about the calendar, but then I forgot we were all going to a conference. I'm like, ugh. So
And that's how it goes, right?
exactly.
As I said, it's always managing these moving parts.
Mm.
Um,
So,
Go first.
yeah, I have it on the 20th. If you think that's not good timing, we can certainly adjust it, but if you want to stick with it, that's great for us too.
Here we go. I'm
It's-
just opening it up, and we are. Where are we? No. I'm like, no. Where'd you go? Open. This PC.
And then there were two.
I don't know where this has disappeared to. I have this all worked out. The 20th. This is not the one.
12. Oh, are you looking at your schedule?
Yes, and I know
Yeah.
I updated it, but I can't find my correct. I know I have you listed. I
Okay.
do know that.
I just know
So-
that on an original link that I have to register for each transition event or Transition Tuesday, it's not listed in there,
Oh, you know what?
but that might be a bad on my part.
No, what I think it is I am not in the States right now. I'm in South Africa. And
Oh my gracious.
yes,
Excellent.
and I'm not able to access my Outlook,
Yeah.
my SharePoint. And so it's giving me only stuff that's on my drive and not necessarily in
Shared drives.
SharePoint. Yes.
Yep.
So I'm not going to give myself a heart attack on that.
No,
I
don't
know
stress.
I
Just
updated you and I confirmed it, and I updated it in the Zoom registration.
okay. Then we're
So
good.
I've done that, and we are good at the 20th. I didn't want to bring you in early in Jan because everybody is still recovering. You see
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Mhm.
Yeah, I totally, and I even thought maybe even December might be wacky, but when somebody's comment was, well, maybe teachers will feel relaxed doing just fun events before the holidays. I'm just going, so
Have you been in a classroom? That's
Oh my
when
God.
behaviors escalate and everybody is all over the show. That's the hardest time for any teacher.
Yeah. So, we can give it a whirl, and if nobody's there, we'll push it to springtime. I mean, whatever
Okay,
works.
let me actually even look at my Zoom right now to see how many is registered. How about that?
Sure.
I know I can do that immediately. So we go and we going to
So what time is it where you are?
it is going on 11 p.m.
Oh my gracious.
Mm-hmm.
Are
Yes,
you?
that's
oh,
okay. That's okay, my dear. I
Oh.
get to spend some time with my family, so
Nice.
I'll do what I need to do so that I can enjoy some time with them.
Good
So
for
I
you.
am
Good
not,
for you.
I will make these small concessions.
Yeah, good for
Um,
you.
I am going to have to do all of this once I'm back stateside
That's
in a
okay.
week or so. Okay,
That's all.
because
Yes.
I am just going to give my heart little palpitations.
Don't worry about it. I just wanted to confirm it's on our calendar, but if something happens and you need to change it, it's totally fine with us.
Okay.
Okay. And
Thank
we're
you
just gonna,
so- Mhm.
yeah,
Go
we're
for
just
it.
gonna take turns chiming in each time to have somebody available if there's any questions.
Mhm.
You will see somebody from Maine site just
Okay.
listening. I think it's
Oh,
valuable.
Absolutely. When we
Okay.
do teams in special service as well, we'll, we always jumping in to help one another and or just uplift one another in these meetings. So we do exactly the same, Lonnie. Exactly the same. That's what we
Okay.
do. if you ever
Okay.
need me to support you in one of these things,
Thank
I'll do the
you.
same.
Thank you. Well, have a wonderful visit.
Thank you very much.
Yes, safe travels.
We'll do, and we'll chat
Okay.
shortly. Bye.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.